Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Militia Man here, and we're going to get started on a little bit of a report. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, caught my eye this morning, is because, you know, when the IMF talks, I think everybody should pay attention, especially if there's some information in respect to Iraq. I think that somehow or another, between the largest purse strings in the world, that happens to be the World Bank, the U.S. Treasury, U.S. Fed, IMF, World Bank, those people, yeah, we got to pay attention to what they have to say. Interestingly enough, WTO is included in that because they all have relationship together. And in this particular report, though, it's an economist, and his name is Dr. Nabil Al-Marami, and he confirms that there's indicators included in this report from the International Monetary Fund, from experts on Iraq, especially related to decline in inflation rates, so that's a good thing. Tightening the central procedures and the increase in growth indicators, all good things, all are positive. He goes on but says these indicators were accompanied by some warning signs. It's pretty common for them to have warning signs, especially about large expansion of public finances. Public finances, if you think about it for a minute, is outgoing revenue streams, and for lots of different reasons. And one of those reasons is a large public employee base. I think that's where the private sector is going to come in and help with that and get rid of it. So we're going to keep how that is. They said they have some concerns with the oil decline. Yeah, the decline in oil production is what we were talking about. Anyway, it doesn't really matter that too much, but the bottom line is this report has a few good things. It's a long one. It's called the IMF report, positive, but included economic warnings. This economist goes on to explain in this particular paragraph, it says the IMF needed to mobilize more non-oil revenues, contain the wage bill, like I just mentioned, the government employees, right? Reform the government retirement system, stressing the importance of supporting the measures by moving to work on more targeted social safety nets. And so we see all that stuff in the news recently, don't you think? It says the work provides better production and protection for vulnerable groups, and we see that, you know, them trying to pay the salaries to the poor and all that. That is a whole nother topic for a different time. But here it says, based on the report by the International Monetary Fund issued at the end of last month, reviewed the most prominent positives achieved by Iraq at various economic and development levels. They were likely the growth of non-oil GDP by 5% in light of great expansion of public finances within the framework of a 3-year budget law that's in force. So if this isn't the 26 budget, they're talking about the 23, 24, 25 budget. I wish everybody would probably step back and understand that. Stay off the internet talking about 2026. Anyway, noting that to continue to implement the budget, strong non-oil growth should continue in the current year of 2024. And that is to be expected. There's been relatively strong oil prices, well over $70. They're just moving into a production mode. They talk about today, they're moving up to 6 million barrels a day. They're going to be doing non-oil revenues. We've talked about it ad nausea, the ISCUTA system, taxes and tariffs, agriculture, tourism. We can't forget all that stuff. It's happening. I know the day-to-day mundane stuff, but it really does support what they're going to do, and that's to support, as it states here, it says, by them doing the things that they're going to do, the impact of it will be a higher exchange rate of the Iraqi dinar. Okay, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about lowering global food prices because of their lower, and the return of trade finance operations to normal with improved compliance with anti-money laundering and terrorist financing frameworks. They go on to point out that the economic achievements achieved by the government during the past year are very important and positive. Keep focus, right? They're stressing that these achievements will be reflected positively during the current year of 2024. increasing development rates and the decline in inflation rates, poverty, unemployment. They're pointing out the government support for the private sector will enhance the recovery of economic reality and will lead to the employment of many workers and move the wheel of industry. Workers. We're going to see an article here today. It's talking about workers. We saw some the other day that was talking about Spain, talking about bringing workers in. Why? Iraq's going to have a population that's going to have a lot of youth. They're going to need some expertise. They're going to need some training, but they're also going to need people to work, because some of the people aren't going to want to work as this gets going. They're just not going to need to. They're going to have enough revenue streams to do something different, okay? It says the recovery of the purchasing power of the individual and increasing the volume of local production, calling on the government authorities to issue more decisions that would achieve positive results at the economic level in the country, explaining that the World Bank report mentioned many positive achievements by Iraq in all these different sectors. Look, all those decisions taken by the government, they're in favor of supporting various productive sectors, like agriculture, industrial, and even tourism. All of these things that we've been talking about, what are they meant for? The tripartite budget. Investment, operational side, we've been hammering it home for a long period of time. I don't know how anyone can get lost on that. I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be. You got to step back a little bit and say, well, what are they doing and how are they getting it done, and are they doing it? Yeah. Are they doing it on our timeline, the hopium side of things? Well, according to some, no, not at all. But in my view, the confidence that I have with all the work that we've been doing with Patreon, our Discord chat room, we have over a year's worth of data supporting the progress of what we've seen ever since Al-Sudani got into office. The Ministerial Council of Economics, powerful. World Bank, BIS, UST, US Federal Reserve, IMF, WTO, all these things are working behind the scenes. Strategic framework agreements, right? The United States Embassy statements, all of those things that we've been talking about. People, you probably should take them seriously and Google some of that stuff. It's pretty easy to find the U.S. Embassy statements on Iraq. It doesn't take a lot to do. It's quick search, and that's powerful. It takes time to read them, because some of the documents that I've read in the last couple of months, they range from 20 pages to almost 150. So you just, you have to pick and choose which ones you think are important. But here again, we do a lot of that for you in our site. That's where the value is. Samson, our news professional, is hot every single day. 24/7 almost. Not quite, but pretty close. And we have the crew members, Pompey Peter, we have Petra, we have Gigi. We have a new member, Meet Me Online. We have many people. We have Tim, Bethany, Brian the Lion for spiritual guidance. Everybody, I know there's people I'm going to miss and they're going to get mad, but the bottom line is every single person on our crew is so much appreciated, and we love you all. So anyway, keep moving forward. This particular article is fascinating. It says al-Nusri. Al-Nusri is kind of like Saleh. These guys have been around. They're seasoned. They've been around for many, many years. He says in his article, my expectations in 2024 are to overcome the challenges of stability in the financial and monetary systems to ambitious proportions. That sounds like it's a pretty big deal. The economic and banking advisor, Samir al-Nusri, said in a statement to the news agency that Iraq faces 2024 with great optimism regarding the level of economic reform and overcoming the challenges of stability in the financial monetary systems in accordance with the ambitious goals set centrally, which begins with the financial and banking reform, reducing the deficit in non-oil revenues. That's what they're focused on. The 2023-4-5 budget is going to be focused on moving away from that 12-1. They said it's not even going to exist, and they're going to go to reducing the deficit in non-oil revenues, and they have the system set up. We already know from all those meetings with the IMF and the ICE-CUTA system, they did it for 11 days. They did that. They said they've even have public reports that are in Patreon that you can see that they've hooked up, even all the way up to the Kirkuk International Airport. So we know all those things have happened. Basically, what they're looking to do is go to a transition to a cash economy, transition from a cash economy, so forgive me, to a digital economy. And if we talked about in the last few days, right? We talked about it almost 6 days ago. Soleil had come out and did a report of his own that said that he was going to have a major announcement because of the digital era, because of where Iraq is going in early 2024. So basically, when they're saying transition from a cash economy to the digital economy, kind of gives you a heads up. Al-Nasuri is on the same page as Soleil. Central bank will go on to pay exceptional attention to managing the monetary policy due to the fluctuation that occurred in the Iraqi dinar exchange rate at the end of 2022. Past tense, we all know about that. So there will be new priorities to control the exchange rate and ensure stability. Of course there will. Look, when these guys changed an exchange rate from the 1310 to a real effective exchange rate, which by the way, the BIS has a main focus body on that. So if you Google the BIS, the bilateral exchange rate, effective exchange rates, real effective exchange rates, you can find out what we've been talking about. You can see that there are specific time frames. There's been this big thing about the 3 and the 30. Keep in mind, if you pay attention, they actually do things on a weekly basis. And they do certain things on a regular weekly basis. So when notification comes within 3 days minimum time or out to 30 days, well, if you look at what the BIS says, all of that fits within those parameters. So be careful on the specifics of specifically hard writing of those things. If there is a guideline and I see that it says specifically in those terminology, we'll give it to you. But the bottom line is, if you do it on your own Google search, which I set out today in private to a few people because they were asking about it with some links, you can find it on your own. All the things that we find here, we don't make it up. We find the articles. They're not easy to find, but it takes a little bit of work and effort. So if you feel like you need to do that, please do. Please do. Use some of the words and language that are in our reports and use them for your search, because it'll focus in on that. It's not that difficult. So check that stuff out. It's pretty fascinating. Here's a key couple words: fourth global revolution. Google it and see what you find. You might find some really interesting things. You might find out that it's about moving to a cashless society. All right, so see about that stuff. Central bank here, it says, will pay exceptional attention to managing monetary policy due to the fluctuation that occurred in the Iraqi dinar exchange rate at the end of 2022. They say it again. So there will be new priorities to control the exchange rate and ensure its stability. And they're going to go on to communicate to everybody that they're going to strengthen the international banking relations to regulate financing of foreign trade and regulate the Iraqi banking sector in accordance with standards of the global financial system. Where have you heard that before? They're going to supposedly fix the global financial system. Here again, they're saying it. This is one of the head banking advisors, Samir Nasiri, talking about that the most developed countries in the world and the banking aspect to completely end the battle with speculators who play a harmful role in the national economy through dealing in dollars on the black market. So everybody that's panicking about this irregular or illegal market, as I call it, the black market, they know that this is coming to an end, and it isn't an issue. The black market is basically an illegal market. It's about smuggling, it's about drugs, it's about nefarious deeds, and these people are going to hang on to their lifeblood as long as they possibly can. It may never ever go away exactly the way we think it's going to go, or we'd like it to go, but the bottom line is that the pressure on with the new platforms that they have, it isolates them. And then there's an article out today about Iran is basically addressing the specific issue that they're not too happy about it, because it doesn't do them any favors with Iraq making so that, as they say, these immature decisions about the monetary policy and their exchange rate. I don't think I have that quote, but if I do, I will happily spell it out for you, because I think it's pretty funny, because it actually is. The nefarious are the ones that are behind the black market, and that's basically going to go away. So, end of that. Is there any more on that? The Turkish banks and the lira. Oh, here's a sentence that says the central bank's administrative procedure and negotiation efforts will continue since the 2023 budget with the U.S. Treasury, the Federal Reserve Bank, and international banks, which Iraq has important trade exchanges, resulted in allowing agreements, arrangements, and understandings that allow the entry of new currencies to deal with external transfers in Iraq. And we all know those, whether it's the Chinese yuan, the UAE dirham, and the rupiah, Indian, and the euro, etc. So we all know that they're going to do this. And what is expected? It says that we expect a number of banks and the number of accounts opened with correspondent banks to increase again this year. So I believe they got about 40 banks already, and now they're talking about increasing them. Well, to get back to the workers, what was going on with the IMF, for instance, in their report, they were talking about employment, and that's one of the things that's needed when it comes to doing big projects. You're going to need employment, and a lot of times local populations can't provide the amount of employees needed. So you got construction efforts. Sometimes the construction efforts might last for a year or something to that effect, but they'll employ like maybe thousands of people. And then once they get to that construction phase is over, then they get to that establishment where you build the buildings and you build the mines and you build these, and then they have full-term employees. So that some of those contractor employees, those construction workers tend to move away. But ultimately the population increases and you have support. So a really good paying job, you might have 4 or 5 jobs that created below it. So if you think about that, if you're going to build out a country, we're not talking about just 1,000 people. We're talking about millions of people that eventually will come into the country. So their population can grow significantly fast when it comes to this, and the effects are going to have an impact on a lot of things, and a lot of those things are going to be like food, clothing, housing, all of those things, commercial needs, fuel, gas stations, food. I mean, it just goes on and on. So you can see that when the country gets to the stage, it isn't just a flip of the switch, man. It really comes down to is an infrastructure basis. We have engineers, you have scientists, you have all that stuff. All of that stuff's in play. Well, anyway, the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs has begun adopting the new mechanism for recruiting foreign workers. Why? They're going to need workers, right? And they're restricting some of that recruiting to skilled workers. Well, skilled workers will come into town, right? And those skilled workers from other places, maybe elderly to some degree, have plenty of experience, will be able to teach the younger population of Iraq how to run a dozer, how to run a blade, how to run office equipment, computers, IT, all the things that you talk about. They're going to need some experienced people to help them get taught. And that's what they're talking about, I think, here. They go on to say the recruitment mechanisms will be limited to recruiting skilled workers for the purpose of training national workers through the projects in which they are working, and they are doing that with the aim of increasing skills, like I just mentioned, and developing competencies. There you go. Back in December 7th, the Ministry of Labor launched electronic applications or application via the Muhan platform for the purpose of recruiting foreign workers for investment companies and the private sector, as well as domestic workers, and they go on to say maids and nannies. So they're talking about a lot of population. A lot of populations have children, and so they're going to need, not only are they going to need skilled workers, but they're going to also need domestic, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. Countries do it all the time. Take care of the kids, homeschool them if you have to. I think it's a good idea. Anyway, Prime Minister says that our government path chose to build confidence and fulfill promises to the people. Sunani's been talking about promises for a long time. One of the promises he's probably going to go down with is if he doesn't do what he said he's going to do and show the people that he has the ability to make the Iraqi dinar stronger than the dollar, he's going to find himself in a precarious situation, because he has been in the forefront, and so has Alak, the central bank governor, has talked strongly to the citizens about the fact that the United States dollar is going to be less than the dinar. So anyway, the government called the 2024 year of achievements. So 2024 is going to be achievements. They're going to need to jumpstart this economy, and we all believe that they're going to have to do that with a real effective exchange rate. Achievements in confirmation of our path that choose to build confidence and build, not only build, but fulfill promises to the people. That's what I just talked about, promises. Those guys are on the hook for it. We will launch the second semi-annual report of the work of the government during this month. That's this month, January. So something's up. We talked about that major announcement coming. They said early, didn't say a day, just said early 2024. Here you're talking about they're going to do something here this month. He adds that the international institutions have confirmed that the Iraq has laid sound foundations for reforming the financial sector, noting that the global financial institutions, that's pretty heavy, noting that global financial institutions have given the green light to invest in Iraq, and this is confirmation of the existence of financial reform and stability, end quote. He goes on to continue, the shift to electronic payment must be widespread in all ministries within the next 6 months, and there will be no return to cash. So, yep, back to no cash. They will return to no cash. And what they're talking about is not all the cards and no cash in the country. What they're saying is in the government themselves, everybody's going to have to make payments with electronic payment. That's just the way that the country is going to roll. The institutions, the way that they have it, they're all going to be at the government level. They're going to be at the supervisory and professional role that they're going to take in the rebuild of the country, and that's just the way it's going to be, and it's going to be a good thing. And so here's another thing that comes back to the employees. So here it's a little change of pace, I should say. It says that the salaries were delayed. We've talked about the salaries being paid. We've talked about that a lot, where they've had loans for them. They're supposed to get paid through cards, electronic payments, and all this other stuff. And here it is, a few days after the first of the year. It says many of the local government departments whose salaries are paid by the National Bank have not received their salaries, including the Ministry of Electricity. It says the salaries for the last month of 2023 were not dispersed on time. Okay, so it's interesting. The salaries are yet to be dispersed for 2023. Banks were closed for yesterday, and hopefully they were going to be paid today. I'm not so sure that they have been. We found out there's other articles out today that specifically talks about loans. So we'll see if those loans come through and how they paid them. What was their rationale for it? Obviously, they said it was private funding. Private funding is quick and easy. It's out of the norm. Could it have been from the central bank getting money for the government? It sure could have been, but we're going to find that out. I'm not too concerned about it, because I believe that everybody and their brother is going to get paid. I think the country of Iraq is going to effectively take care of everybody, and probably in a very big way. There's another issue here that's with the Parliamentary Finance. It says the 2024 budget will witness changes in the operational and investment aspects. So we all know that this stuff from yesterday, it says the Parliamentary Finance Committee announced the 2024 budget will witness changes in its operational and in its investment parts. Well, that's exactly what we've all been talking about, is that there's that operational side of the 2023-24-5 budget and the investment parts. To backtrack a little bit, it says the 24 budget will make changes, and it will be something different in terms of resources and estimates of oil prices and expenditures, as is this the case It is plans for the new year that will carry new projects, indicating the amounts have been determined for some projects. Look, it says it's either was spent or it will be spent soon. So they just haven't done everything they said they're going to do, okay? But is that for everybody's eyes and ears, for specifically down to the nth degree? I'm not so sure that's what they're trying to do, or will they ever do that. But it says the projects will be produced, and there are appointments that occurred in their previous budget, and these are all variables that were not present in the 2023 budget exposed yet. It says every year the operating budget increases while changes occur in the investment budget, stressing when the government presented a budget for three consecutive years, the first goal was to continue spending beyond the 1st of January and ensure that we are not exposed to problems stopping the fiscal year, and work in accordance with the spending as principle out of one of 12 until a new budget is approved. That whole statement right there is based on the past. What they're doing now is not 12 to 1. They even said that. So Parliament grants the government the authority to continue spending in 2023 budget until it is completed and in the beginning of 2024 without interruption. The government will not change in the 2024 budget, and since it did not spend the previous budget in the required manner, it will not need loans in the budget. So the 23, 24, 25 budget, they're saying they don't have to get loans. The 23 budget, they're going to. 24, they didn't, because they did use loans, and we already talked about that. Secondly, the hard part to swallow here is that we haven't seen any spending out of the 23 budget per se as of today or yet, right? It says, so how would we know that they have a surplus? But they go on to say that Iraq achieves a planned surplus of $7.6 billion in 2023, but they haven't spent the money and they're doing loans. So something doesn't add up, okay? It sounds to me like they just really are trying to massage and hide some of the things that they're doing. It says their actual oil revenues for 2023 were higher than planned. The revenues in the country's budget for the same year increased by about $7.6 billion, which indicates that the revenues exceed official expectations. It says that the decrease in revenues is partly due to the fluctuations in global oil prices. They go on to say that they had global market challenges, noting that Iraq government is working hard to diversify revenue sources to strengthen the national economy and achieve official and financial stability. And so ultimately, what is they going to do is that Taif Sami comes out and says she's going to work hours continue next Friday and Saturday. It says that the Ministry of Finance directed the continuation of working hours of employees of the accounting and budget departments, okay, the Central Bank of Iraq, the Information and Computer Technology Department, the branches of the Rafidain and Rashid banks on the coming Friday and Saturday. That's this weekend. So they're going to keep working. And they haven't done the 2023 allocations or disbursements outside of loans. You go, but they have a $7.6 billion surplus. I didn't make it up. $7.6 billion surplus. And they haven't paid the salaries. There's something crazy about that. Anyway, we're going to watch what they do. Okay? So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Iraq government will not allow any forces to obstruct its work. So the Iraqi prime minister comes out and says today, he goes, the government will not allow any forces to obstruct its work. So what are we doing? It says on Tuesday evening today, later this afternoon, reiterated the government will not allow any internal or external forces to obstruct its work and provide services to citizens. He says in a press conference, al-Sudani, quote, our government's path has chosen to build trust and fulfill its promises to its people. So is one of those promises the Iraqi dinar being stronger than the dollar? Okay, we'll see. He says, we will not allow any internal or external force to hinder the government's work in fulfilling its duties. Regarding the economic side, al-Sudani said that the international institutions have confirmed that Iraq has laid solid foundations for financial sector reform. okay, back up a minute here. So he says, from the economic side of things, the international institutions have confirmed that Iraq has laid solid foundations for financial sector reform. He goes on to say, we have taken important steps in financial, economic, and agricultural reform. Well, agricultural reform is, to me, is going to mean exportation. Tripartite budget needs you to be exporting. And if they can turn on the water, they can turn on the agriculture, they can start producing an exportation. It says, he goes on and says, all international institutions have witnessed the government's financial and banking reform. So that's coming from Al-Sudani. So all international institutions have witnessed the government's financial and banking reforms. It says that all international institutions have confirmed the Iraq has laid solid foundations for financial sector reform. And I told you earlier that they have given the green light to international institutions for what? For investment. I don't know, you guys. I'm pretty excited. You guys should like this stuff. You really should. It goes on to say that to enhance economic sector, the national investment discusses the proposal to amend the authority's law. So basically what they're trying to say here is, I think the National Investment Authority is looking to strengthen the economic sector in Iraq. Well, of course they are. They're going to want to have everything in place. Investors are going to be really itchy, tight. They're going to want to know that they got everything protected. And here it goes. The chairman of the National Investment Authority, Haider Mohammed Makia, chaired a meeting to discuss the proposed amendments to amending the Investment Law number 13 of 2006 with the aim of strengthening the economic sector in Iraq. Don't let that scare you. I think that they have this stuff all probably in the pipeline. And since it was done in 2006, which a lot of things have been done as far back as 2006, and I got a strong feeling now that I think about it, one of the biggest things that the Bank of International Settlements did was some of their methodology that was based off of 2006. I think there's a 19-page report, and I think on page 3 you'll find the calculations if you want to go do that methodology. I did send that out to an engineer to see if I could get some answers on it today. We'll see how that turns out. He goes, there's a set of proposals that provide the appropriate legislative environment for developing the reality of investment in strategic projects in Baghdad and the provinces. There you go. Environment, developing reality of investment. Okay. They're discussing the merits of the amendments and vital articles in the law, the national authority and the investment sector under broader strategic. Basically, he's discussing a set of proposals that will provide appropriate legislative environment for developing the reality of investment and strategic projects in Baghdad and the provinces. Okay, so they go on. The meeting is basically concludes that they set a time limit to resolve the amendments in their final form and to proceed with the necessary legal procedures regarding these items. Okay, so let me see if I got anything left here. Basically, the disbursements of the budget were different from 2023. You know, I think I already went over this. Basically, the budget will need to be exposed at some point. The citizens, they're going to need to get paid. They said it was slated for today, and so we shall see what happened today. Maybe tomorrow we're going to see more on the matter. I'm not so sure that everybody got their money. The way that the data supported today is that some of them got funded by loans. Yeah, so they got funded by loans. And we'll see if they follow through on some different mechanism. It's going to be interesting. But lastly, today on this, there's going to be the 47th edition of the Baghdad exhibition, and it says it will witness wide participation from countries and companies. So it's the 47th. This is nothing new. But the interesting thing here is that the Ministry of Commerce inspected Baghdad International Fair on Tuesday evening to supervise the readiness of the Baghdad International Fair to hold the 47th session, which will be held under the slogan, Iraq Continues, and under the auspices of the Prime Minister from the period from the 10th to the 19th of January. So why is this important? Look, we all know that when these guys do fairs, a lot of times we get excited and everything, and nothing ever comes of it. And this might be the same case, but with a tripartite budget and all the things that I've talked about, they're moving towards going to an international economy. And the 23-24 budget is meant for that. That's the law. So if they have to do it. That's effectively how I see it. When you pass a law, you need to abide by it. And they're supposed to be abiding by it. And I think they are. It's just that they might be able to massage it just a little bit outside of our realm because it's a new, fresh, tripartite budget that's never been done before. And they're underway. So anyway, you guys, thank you for being with me this evening. Sorry for being a little bit long-winded, but hey, you know what? Sometimes getting all this stuff out, all this information, it just takes a few minutes, a little extra time to get it done and get it solid. So listen, if you like my content, please hit that little like button and subscribe, if you will, please. And there again, to keep the content rolling. A lot of hard work that goes involved in this. We have Zelle and we have PayPal and Venmo. So please enjoy the content, and we'll see you soon. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.